Justin McRoberts is an author, speaker, singer-songwriter, and host of the podcast At Sea with Justin McRoberts. His ministry work spans over 2 decades, and in addition to co-founding Shelter-Vineyard Church in Concord, California, he's become a trainer and mentor to pastors and artists. His new book, It Is What You Make of It, Creating Something Great from What You've Been Given, looks at how we can eliminate "it is what it is" thinking from our lives and embrace our challenges to turn them into gifts. Please welcome Justin McRoberts.
Justin, hi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Hey, for those who don't know you or haven't heard of you, tell us a little bit about your story.
I'm 5'6" and I'm Scotch-Irish. That's probably the most important part of the thing. I live in Martinez, California, born in Oakland, and for the last 25 years, my role and responsibility has been to create language for the process of life and faith so folks can get a handle on what's going on in their own environment in the divine context.
Okay. And that's awesome, by the way. There's a statement, so when I was reading this, that people say, "It is what it is." And your book title is, "It is what you make of it." This reminds me a lot of something my grandpa used to say to us when we would leave his house or something, "Have a good day." And he would say, "No, make it a great day," you know? And that kind of reminds me of that. Tell me a little bit about how that phrase kind of inspired the book, right?
Yeah, I mean, the idea being that like a lot of us end up missing out on the things that are right in front of us because we don't grab a hold of them. Like we're trained to wait, and not that waiting is a bad thing, but at some point, the waiting brings about a certain kind of fruit that we need to get to be responsible for. So the things that happen in my life, whether it's the gifts and the talents that I'm offered or the circumstances I end up in, nothing is what it is. It always ends up, the question on the other side of my gifts, my talents, my strengths, or my circumstances, my failures, and my impoverishments is, what do I do with what I have on hand right now? That's what it looks like for me to live and look like God as I do.
So that's a little abstract, you know, like to explain that to me. If I just go, are you talking about tragedy? Are you talking about victory? Are you talking about your own personal struggles? It is what it is.
Yeah. So I'll give you 2 quick stories. The one is, the book starts out this way, is I was cracking jokes in my freshman year speech class. And my speech teacher pulled me up in front of the room and said, "You like to make people laugh? So here you go, make people laugh." And I froze because now it's like, I'm not stealing someone else's moment. I've got to make one of my own. And he grabs this inflated cactus and he sets it down next to me and he says, "You've got 5 minutes." And I'm frozen. The kid next to him says, because he sits down in my seat, the kid next to him says, just pretend like you're in the desert. You know, it's just a cactus. And Mr. Ross, the teacher who I was in trouble with, said, "No, it's not. It's whatever you make of it." What he was doing for me in that moment is like, you have a gift. You like making people laugh. You like talking. What are you actually going to do with that? That's about seeing my gift as not just a thing that I have, but like the question of what am I going to do with it? And then a number of years ago, and I shared this with a lot of folks who are part of your congregation. Like I lost my father to depression, to suicide, to overwork, to a false narrative about who he's supposed to be. And it's awful to lose someone to suicide. And after the grieving process and after being overwhelmed by that loss, the question then became, what do I do now with this moment, with the story that I have in my life? And part of what I did was I get to go speak to folks who live like my dad, who believe that they are only they are their money, that they are their successes. And I get to say, no, you're a beloved child of the living God. Let's help you reorient who you are. So I get to use that as well. Tragedy, victory, strength, failure.
I really appreciate that, because I think we are living in a time where there are multiple reasons why people feel like a pressure to just be or do what kind of like everybody around them is saying they should be or do. And that can happen in lots of ways, you know, like it can happen through religion, obviously. It can happen there's a lot of educated people who are saying, "Oh, you're this way because of this or that." There's a lot of religious people who are saying, "Oh, this or that." And very often, I think as people, we don't even know what we want in life. We don't know what we're supposed to do. Like, I think it causes our brains to be almost a little scrambled and confused.
Yes.
And so it's like, so when someone says something like, "It is what you make of it," I think a lot of times we're like, well, what should I make of it? That's maybe a big question people have.
It is. And and the first step in that is figuring out what it is you actually do have on hand. In other words, we get caught up in solutions, we get caught up in programs, and we don't pay as much attention to the actual gift God is trying to give the world, which is you. So when the disciples look at the crowd of thousands and they say they're hungry, this is a problem, and Jesus says, why don't you feed them? They want to send them away. Like they're like, no, we don't want to deal with this problem because we don't have enough. Mm-hmm. And what Jesus says is, they go, why don't you feed them? And then eventually when they get around to the question, like, what is it that you do have on hand? Before they could get to the question of like what they're going to do, they actually had to evaluate what it is they actually had on hand. And they had just a little bit of bread and just a little bit of fish. They had to come to that point. And you're 100% right. I think we get caught up on the solutions and the mechanisms. We get caught up on the what ifs. And we don't spend enough time actually paying attention to like, what do I actually have in me? What's that desire in me? What's the dream I have in me that I actually want to build on and make something out of?
One of the things you just said that got me is it almost sounds like you're saying everyone is a gift. It's like everyone is a gift to someone else in some way. And a part of sorting out what to do with what I've got in my life is figuring out how I can be a gift to my neighbor or something like that.
Yes. 100%. And it's not a thing I believe and then act on. It's a thing I have to do and then see. Like I have to be placed in those places in which I don't feel like I have enough. I don't feel like I am enough. And then be received differently than I understand myself. So when I am that person in my neighborhood who, like last summer, my neighbor falls down on the end of her driveway, and it turns out she's got brain cancer and she doesn't know what's going on. And like, I'm the person in the neighborhood. I don't feel sufficient for that moment. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm the person that is placed there. And over the course of the next, several months, like the relationship that my family develops with her and her family, we didn't know what kind of gift we were going to be to her and her situation until I was in that situation and had to ask that question: what do I have on hand? What can I bring to the table? And then watch magic and miracle happen on the other side of that choice.
It's awesome. The book is called It Is What You Make of It, Creating Something Great from What You've Been Given by Justin McRoberts. I want to encourage you, especially if you know someone or you're someone who's going through a big transition in life and you're just trying to sort out what to do next and what do I do with this mess or what do I do with that? This is the book for you. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it, and thank you for this encouragement.
You got it, man.
God bless you.